In October 2022, UK Pivot held a dynamic 2-day symposium dubbed Leveling Up. Engaging presenters provided thought-provoking discussions which were life-changing and affirming. Every Friday night at 8 p.m. for the next 8 weeks, we will be bringing these deep discussions and powerful presentations on health, migration, Brexit, entrepreneurship, and more to you right here on your favorite On Mute Now podcast channel. On today's episode, Gatsi Barnett takes us through the challenges and rewards of entrepreneurship. Tune in and enjoy. Keep on raising the volume on the whispered conversations in your communities.
Entrepreneurship is the conversation of choice. Now, the million-dollar question is, are you born an entrepreneur or you become made? I don't know. For me, I think it's one of those things, I think from as earlier on, coming from a family where both my parents are in business, it was really weird. I think at an early age, being made to do proposals. Because if you wanted a lemonade stand, my mom and dad would ask you the business kind of questions that I finally learned in the classroom when I was in university. So they asked you things like, well, how many people do you think you're going to get there? And why do you want to do it? And all these things. And at the time, it didn't even twig that they're asking me to do a proposal. And I was only fairly young and just wanted a lemonade stand. And then if you wanted them to invest in it financially, they asked you more questions. So I was like, okay. Finally, when I was older, I was like, you probably planned this before I even knew I was going to be this person, but I appreciate that they did that. So I love acronyms because I found in life there's so many things we learn, but acronyms just make it that much more interesting to remember and retain and explore whatever it is that we're talking about. So today we're talking about being entrepreneurs. Now, all of us are technically entrepreneurs. You just have to decide when you want to become one. So we'll talk through it. So the first thing, if I go on with my slides, I've got a wonderful assistant who's going to be behind me here. Substitution for clickers. Human being clickers are the best. So the first E in entrepreneur is expression. This is how you pitch yourself, your business idea. This will create the tone and the atmosphere for success. So a lot of times when you're thinking about entrepreneurship, it's like this huge field of so many things to talk about and contemplate and think about. But this is about expression because every business is a personality of its owner, to be fair. So every element of whatever business it is you go through, it's an expression. It's an expression of you. So we all have personalities. Some of us are extroverts, some of us are introverts, some of us a little bit of both. But we express ourselves, whether you go into fashion or you go into media, whatever choice you decide to go into business, it's an expression. So that's the first one for me, E is for expression. And I'll go to the next one, please. I've also included a couple of women who I appreciate who are in business. So one of my favorites is Maya Angelou. And her famous quote saying, nothing will work unless you do. And I think that's part and parcel of the entrepreneur journey. You have to figure out what works for you and how it works in your world for it to work when you actually put it at a larger scale in a business context. And then I've also put my little side note across to that now, which is determine what you love and do it. How many times have we gone into school, gone and done a lot of things and only discovered much later, either you hated it or you did it for somebody else and it had nothing to do with you altogether? A few? I can see a couple of heads nodding. We do that all the time, isn't it? So when you determine what you love, if you love talking to people, you love creating things, you love being in a position where you're in the center of all the activity, or you are the activity, I don't know. When you figure out what you love the most, it's easy to wake up every day and be that person, isn't it? I think I do. Because every day I don't regret half the things that I do as far as being an entrepreneur. Lots of learning, lots of failures, but within all those failures, the success of it is getting up from those failures and figuring out what went wrong and perfecting it, because that's why we do it all the time. So we'll go to the next one. The N in entrepreneur. Oh, we've gone a bit too far. Oh, there we go. So it's new. I think there's always something exciting about a new concept. Treat each day as a new start, and then the experience will always exist. So whatever happened yesterday is yesterday. Today's a brand new day. So let's see what we can do with today. Today, you'll learn new things, you'll experience new things, and everything about today is completely brand new because none of us knew what today was going to be like. We woke up, we showed up here, and we have no idea what's going to happen with every second that's going to precede this moment. So think about that when you're looking at your business. You have a new idea, you have a new concept, you have something that the world has never seen before because it's you. And there's only one version of you, which is you. So we have to take into account how exciting you are as an individual, your personality, your abilities, and put that into practice. So I like the idea of it being you. Can we have the next one, please? Again, Martha Stewart. Lots of these women have different types of things. It's within everyone's grasp to be a CEO. And I think that's a reality. You can go to sleep today. Before COVID happened, we all had different things that we were doing. COVID happened, and you can imagine the boom of business in that time frame. We discovered that we like to watch people do crazy things, funny things, ridiculous things. We discovered that, in my case, I do not like teaching my child. Absolutely not. Hats off to teachers. I do not like teaching my child. I think if anything, if it was up to me, she would be put off school for the rest of her life because I have no patience for the number of questions as to why and where. I was like, no, this is not for me. So hats off to anyone who's a teacher, because I certainly would not be good at that. My patience was really thin on that. So when you know how, you're limitless. So when you know whatever it is you're pursuing, what's the limitation? There's nothing. It's like jumping out of a plane knowing that you have a parachute on your back, and you know if you pull the little string, it's just going to open and you're just going to go and land wherever you're supposed to land. It's simply put like that. Because the whole idea of you being that CEO, you can be the chief executive of your house. Just go to Northern Ireland. I've discovered the powerhouses in Northern Ireland are actually women. The dispatching and organization that goes on from that kitchen table, it's like a multi-million-dollar industry right there on that kitchen table. So there is lots of opportunities with that. May we have the next one? Team. Yeah, being an entrepreneur sometimes can be a very solo experience, but when you find that team, a good entrepreneur generates ideas, but a great entrepreneur builds a team around them to take the vision beyond the business plan and into development. If I sit at home and I think of something really great and it only lives within me and I don't have a team around me that keeps inspiring me and motivating me to do more, how do you think McDonald's is a wonderful chain that we have today? How do you think Nike is halfway across the world in so many places? How do we even look at it and think, okay, we have some things in Northern Ireland, for example. If we look at all the stores that we have here, we look at all the institutions that we have here, there's a lot of things that are replicating, aren't there? How many cafeterias? I mean, I think there's the sandwich company. They make brilliant sandwiches. I mean, I've seen them all over the place. I thought there were only one place, but when I realized that you can find them all across Northern Ireland, that's success happening. But it's because there's a team behind it that makes it a reality. Resilience. For those down days, no hope in sight days, build up your resilience and ride that roller coaster for that business survival. Have you ever figured out that you've got your business plan, you've done everything, you've done all the banking, the money adds up, and then you have that one expense that just catches you off guard, and all of a sudden your finances are in a state of chaos because this one bill that you absolutely need, like the broadband, for example, and you have to pay the broadband bill. If you don't have broadband, your whole world collapses because everything is really on that Wi-Fi. Frustrating, isn't it? So you learn how to work around your world. You learn how to negotiate things, and you need to have resilience, because I can tell you, being an entrepreneur, I've had many conversations, and my friends sometimes tell me you must be crazy to launch out as far as you're launching out and all this other stuff. And I've actually always fallen back on that quote that says, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. My dreams are nightmares at this point. So I've realized the more I can scare myself and actually watch them come to light, that's the exciting element. So you've got to ride that roller coaster of life, because that's where you will learn so many things about yourself that you didn't know you had. Oh yeah, here we go. We've got a quote at last. So Esther Lauder, I think a lot of women in here would know products from her, I think, empire for years, all the different types of things that she has. So I never dreamed about success. I worked for it. You don't dream about being successful. You have to go out there, put in the time. You have to earn the stripes, so to speak. I think we've all heard that. I've earned my stripes. So whenever you've got all your badges and all the wonderful things that make you who you are, you have to earn that place, right? And it's a lot of work. Sometimes it can be lonely. It can be frustrating. But you know what? Success has to be a personal experience. I believe it's only something that you can get the most out of when you put yourself out there. It's like walking into a room, walking into here, for example. You know absolutely no one. You know you've got a really good business idea, and this is a networking event, and you have to speak to someone. How scary is it when you open the door and you realize, I don't know anyone, and I have to start to speak to someone because I've got a brilliant idea, and it cannot just stay with me. I need to do something about it. So this is what success is like. It's a personal journey. You'll put in the work. If you hate public speaking, you'll have to find a way to fool yourself into thinking that it's a brilliant thing. Think about something really fantastic. Haven't you heard those wonderful coaches that tell you, look at something in the room. Imagine people without their clothes on or something to make yourself be able to stand up there and talk. And then the reality is you finally get up here, you look out and they're looking at you and you go blank. Can't remember anything. Everybody knows what that feels like, right? So success, we have to work on it. And for me, if you earn, you'll be sure to enjoy it. So once you're earning everything that you've worked so hard for this success, you'll enjoy it. It's like going on holiday knowing that it's completely paid for and everything is just for you to experience it, right? There's nothing worse than going on holiday and realizing that you're not where you're supposed to be. You don't have half the things you need. It's frustrating. So you have to go out there when you've put in all that work to be successful. Enjoy it when you're finally earning the benefits of all of that hard work. And it takes energy. Oh my goodness, it takes a lot of energy. Know your strengths and maximize them. And as far as the weaknesses, the strengths over time will compensate for them. So if you hate speaking and you have a member of your staff team or your team around you that can talk, give them all the stuff that they want to talk about and you don't have to do it anymore. Easy, right? If you're a very good thinker and you're a creative person, but the administration side of things is not your favorite thing, there's always somebody you can hire who could do that part for you and you can just be as creative as you like. So we can compensate. All of these big billionaires that are out there, let's be honest, does Richard Branson actually walk into Virgin Media call sales room and actually take calls? I don't think so. Not anymore. He's got a lot of people who do that. If he wants to go and fly us around the world, better yet, fly us around space, I don't see him taking himself on the flight and actually being the pilot. He doesn't have to. He can pay somebody else for that risk, right? And that's what it's about. You can find ways to maximize your strengths, build on them. And you don't have to feel like your weaknesses are the worst thing that could happen. Sometimes those weaknesses over time, the strengths will pull them along. And where they are, they can find other people to do it for you. So it's not a bad thing. Energy is good for you. Next one. Okay, I like this. Anya Rand. The question isn't who is going to let me in. It's who is going to stop me. Think about that one for a minute. If you spend your whole life wanting to get in somewhere, and then you finally get in and you're so disappointed because everything you thought it was going to be, it's not. Was it worth it? Not really sometimes. But the thing is, who is going to stop me? You have this brilliant idea. You have all of these amazing things that you're capable of. What can stop you? You know that famous saying, there's nothing to fear but fear itself? I kind of look at that and think, you know what? It's scary. Even fear itself. Ride that wave. Have you ever seen surfers when they go out? They're on the surfboard and they kind of wait for that moment, for that wave to just hit. So for me, I kind of look at it when you are in this position, you know what you want to do. No one can stop you. You're just waiting for that wave. And the patience it takes to watch all of those ripples. And then when the humongous tsunami of a wave comes, the activity just to be the first one to ride it and come out the other end of the tunnel, if that's what they want to do. That's exactly you. Nothing should stop you. And if there are some things you're afraid of, go and conquer them. What's the worst that can happen? You embarrass yourself? So what? It's not the worst thing in the world. You miss a line, you forget something, you don't remember somewhere, you're lost. That's part of the journey. Being an entrepreneur is not a quick fix scenario. It takes time. And it takes a lot of learning how to be the sort of entrepreneur you want to be. So for me, an unstoppable is a woman with a plan. Have you ever seen mothers when they decide we're going to have a picnic? It could be bucketing outside, but that picnic is going to happen even if it's in the living room, because that's the determination that I really want to see this happening. And we all have that. Have you ever wanted something so badly, and no matter how old you get, even when you finally get to the age where you can actually afford it, you go and buy it, and the gratification that you feel about finally achieving that? It's like that pair of shoes, that handbag, whatever it is. Half the time, it's usually some materialistic something. We all have that. And then sometimes it's a personal achievement moment. But it's getting to that point where you've achieved it and you can put whatever flag of choice. And I say this cautiously, we're in Northern Ireland. You can put a flag of choice and just triumph that arrival for whatever it is you're looking for. The next one is practice. It takes a lot of practice. Practice really doesn't make perfect. Not really. I've heard it says, practice makes perfect. Not always in an entrepreneur's world. In a world of numerous choices, to be the best needs all the practice to be that one. But it doesn't necessarily mean if you go and you build this fantastic empire, everything about it is going to be perfect. Every opportunity you have as an entrepreneur will open different doors. Some will be easy, some will be difficult, but the whole idea is practice, and practice as many times as you can. Public speaking, talk to a room all by yourself if you must. Stand in front of a mirror, record yourself, hear yourself playing it back. Sounds a bit absurd, but once you get over that and you kind of get used to seeing your face, I know I hate photographs. Every person in my family knows, take a photograph of me unaware and you'll probably get a good one. Tell me you're taking a photograph, it's a disaster. So it's all of that. And no matter how many times I practice that poker face, keep it in this way, it's going to come out right. Sure as anything, it never does. So yeah, what I don't know, and I see it in the end, perfectly fine. But practice. Practice your way of being you, because there's no one who can ever teach you how to be the best version of yourself. Another quote, a woman we all know very, very well, Oprah Winfrey. I don't believe in failure. It's not failure if you've enjoyed the process. So you started a business, your first one, or you had a little small adventure, didn't work out, maybe you didn't get as much as you expected out of it. But the fact that you enjoyed all of the learning, the people you connected with, the experience you had, maybe the places you went to, that's what makes it not a failure. Because you've enjoyed the process. And even if it feels like, oh, I've had to sell off some things, I've had to give up some things, I've had to lose some things, it might feel like the worst thing. But in that moment, over time, when you realize and you align everything else together, there's some things, to be honest, you're glad that they're gone. Absolutely, you're glad that they're gone. And that includes people sometimes. And as entrepreneurs, sometimes there's some people you want to hold on to for your whole journey. But you can't always keep everyone. And then even if you do lose some people, you'll always find the ones you need when you need them. And then finally, you'll get that A-team we were talking about. So another part that I'd say for myself is raise a glass and toast yourself. You did it. Every time you go out and it's a dinner, it's like we're toasting someone. But how many times do you pour yourself a glass of wine or a glass of whatever beverage of your choice and toast yourself? You need to do that because you've earned this. You've worked hard for this. You've practiced. You've done all of those amazing things. So you know what? You deserve a pat on the back. And if no one else will give it to you, give it to yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. Repetition. To find that sweet spot of your success, it takes repetition to perfect the mistakes and find your unique style. So if everybody else, for example, when we look at women's shoes, for example, I think whatever they look like before they perfected them, they were just miserable looking. And when I've looked at the archives of how they've designed women's shoes, and even till today, they're not making them perfectly enough for how we would like them to fit. So I think designers need a bit of work in that one and maybe look at a couple more feet. Because as wonderful as it is, there's some that are incredibly overpriced, but at the end of the day, they're still going to do the same thing, right? They're for our feet. So it's either you're comfortable or uncomfortable, and then you get to an age where you think, you know what, to hell with having to wear those heels. Have you seen women on a night out after having had a couple of drinks? Can you imagine all these amazing Cinderella characters? By midnight, they don't look anything like themselves anymore. And 95% of us are walking with the shoes after all, and we've got a pair of trainers. Yeah, you get to a point where you think, you know what, comfort as opposed to looking like Posh Spice. I would rather be comfortable, right? I would go for that. So repetition. Find what works for you. And it doesn't matter how many times you try, how many times, if it feels like you failed, is it really? Or it's just an opportunity for you to perfect what you didn't see the first time. So we'll go to the next one. Famous lady, I also believe that she's a chancellor around here, Hillary Clinton. Women are the largest untapped reservoir of talent in the world. I absolutely believe that. If it was up to me, no offense to the men in the room, I think technically we do run the world and we just let you take the leading character whilst we're just like in the background, but realistically, we run the world. It's true. But in any case, we have so many resources. All you have to do is be in a household and just watch the level of coordination of a lot of things, whether it's what's the next extension to the house. You might think you're building it, but she's the one who's decided that this is what we're going to do about it. And you might resource everything, but she's the one who's really deciding what colors, what furniture, and all the other bits. So realistically, who runs the world? I don't know. I think women do. So it's time to shine because you're unique. And regardless of your gender, I think we all have an incredible contribution to humanity as a whole and society that we live in, because it takes all of you being here and us all being different for everything to work. If we were all the same, would we get up though? I don't think so. We'd probably be too bored with the concept. We just move on to something else, or we would invent something. So we still do need entrepreneurs. Enthusiasm. You have to be your own cheerleader. Keep motivated. Pace yourself. Manage your creative energy time. How many times have you ever thought, in this moment, I really could do with somebody telling me keep going? You look around and there's nobody there except you. It's in those moments you really have to figure out how to be your own entrepreneur support system, isn't it? When you have those days where you think, you know what, do I really have to go in the office? Do I really want to be in there for that long? Should I? This is the time where you need to have that inbuilt reservoir about enthusiasm for whatever it is you're after. Have you ever seen Bear Grylls and all the other characters that are out there? They put themselves through hell. And I'm just thinking, I don't even want to go through any of that stuff. Living out there, freezing to death, damn near starving. Looks like he's going to die, bitten by something, need to get an antidote. It doesn't look like it's fun. But you know what? He's enthusiastic. That's what's funny about it. He's enthusiastic to face danger. I don't understand how he does that. But that's his niche. So be enthusiastic about what's yours and learn to be your own cheerleader. It makes a difference over time. The next one, please. Tina Fey, very funny comedian actress this lady is. You're not in competition with other women. You're in competition with everyone. Have you ever thought about that? Now, I say women because, hey, Tina Fey, this is her quote. But reality is, you're not in competition with other people, realistically. There's only one version of yourself. And if you're in competition with everyone, how much do you have to put in to be the one that becomes exceptional in this? Quite a lot, don't you think? Just go on TikTok. How many things are on there? You will laugh at one thing, laugh at another one, and by the time you're finished, you've laughed so much. Does it really matter? The fact is you were entertained for a period of time, isn't it? And you've enjoyed yourself, and you forgot your troubles, and you forgot your concerns, because there's a lot of competition out there. Make peace with competition. It's not the worst thing in the world. Find who your partners are. Find people who are aligned with the way you think, the way you want to do business, the way you appreciate life, etc. All of those things will make a difference for you. And my own thoughts on that. There's room for all of us. Just keep the door open. Have you ever heard that it's lonely at the top? I'll let you know it's lonely at the top because you shut the door. If you kept the door open, it wouldn't be so lonely, would it? So keep that door open. Sometimes the best advice or somebody who's going to come and say something to you might not even look like you, might not even sound like you, might have nothing in any way that makes you the same, but they will have something that will show you that, you know what? Your business idea, your thinking, your personality, whatever you're pursuing is actually good enough. And somebody out there resonates with that. The next one, not so easy here in Northern Ireland, however. Negotiate. That one is a tricky one. But don't be afraid to ask for the right price. Be flexible. But don't undersell your services or your products. How many times have you actually thought, I want that, but if I ask for the actual amount that I'm prepared to pay for it, will I get away with it? Have you ever watched Four in a Bed? That program where everybody invites other people to their B&B and then you discover if what you're asking for is what people actually want to pay. The worst part is when people open the envelope and they're expecting the money that they think they're supposed to get and they get way less. The look of shock horror to actually realize that, no, we're pricing it at this much and somebody has paid us this much. And then you have some people who cannot take the idea of being told or criticized that something wasn't exactly perfect and they don't take it very well. Negotiate. Sometimes we have to have those negotiations, even if it's getting the right price. So even if it's somebody telling you there could be a few things you could change. There is some constructive criticism and there is just some downright damaging criticism. So you have to decide which things you want to listen to and which things you will just simply say thank you, but no thank you, not today. The next one. Now, Kim Kiyosaki, hopefully I've said that right. If you're starting your own business, the best shortcut is to find a good mentor. Now, I can definitely say that worked. If you find people who obviously are in the same line of the things you want to do and you get a mentor who looks at you and sees things that you don't see about yourself, a lot of times for the business I've run and things I've done in my life, I had mentors who spoke to me as if I was at the end of my journey. But for me, it was just the beginning. They could see things I couldn't see. And that's the beauty of a mentor because they can perfect the small things that I'm missing in the detail because they know more, they have the experience, and they can tell by certain behaviors and pattern what's going to happen next. So another thing that I say is a guided tour saves time for the unexpected. If you've got somebody who's telling you all the things to look out for, Maybe the pitfalls. For example, you start your business, and remember back in the day when they used to have telephone directories? Yeah. And then you get that phone call that says, "Hi, we'd like to add your business to the telephone directory." And then they sell you this whole big spiel. And then you think, you know what, I'll spend that money. I think there'll be a lot of returns in my business if I do that. Only to find that you paid all this money and never got a phone call, not one day, and had any reference at all from that ridiculous telephone directory. Those moments, can you imagine if somebody told you not even bother with the telephone directory and just, you know what, go on social media or something else? That money, that investment you would have made and saved yourself a bill that you paid begrudgingly because you realized it was absolutely a useless adventure? Yeah, we have those moments, don't we? The next slide, please. Equipped. You have to be equipped. There will be mishaps. There will be failures. Close, but not quite. Next time, that horrible word where you've put in all the effort and you put in your pitch and somebody says no, or they say maybe, or you get no response whatsoever. Even if you calculate everything to the finest detail, there's some inevitable things that can happen. You've put in all the effort, like you've done everything, you've done the social media, you've done everything humanly possible, only to find that, okay, I don't have the result that I want. But then you have other things that can come into play that can completely change the outcomes. Have you ever gone into a meeting, pitched the person who you thought they're the most important one, only to find that the most important person wasn't even that one? So as much as we're equipped, the mishaps and the moments that we don't calculate for, if you're prepared, you'll ride that wave and it won't make a difference at all. Now you'd think these quotes and all these amazing individuals, Michelle Rees, if people are doubting how far you can go, go so far that they can't even hear, that you can't even hear them anymore. Can you imagine when you have that friend who's always telling you, be careful, be cautious, don't do that, maybe not, or even, a family member who's always telling you, no, just keep it safe, keep it simple, you'll be fine. And then you decide to go beyond that and you discover more about yourself than you actually thought you knew because you pushed your own boundaries. Go beyond the sky, I say. No one can bring you down if you're in orbit. Can you imagine you're in galaxy somewhere out there in space? Who can bring you down from up there? Nobody. So if you build a world around yourself that elevates you to that place because you're so sure, even if you've got the mistakes and the mishaps and all the things that you can think about, being in orbit, have you ever thought about it beyond the planet that we're on, what's out there? And with all the movies, Star Trek and everything else you can find, that it just makes space such an untempered, such an unfully discovered space. That's you as an entrepreneur, if you never thought about it. You have that ability. Understanding. Plan well, be open for the unexpected. Think on your feet and be patient with yourself. So you could be in here, you could be doing this, you could be doing that, and things are not going to plan, and then you have to reinvent a totally different thing. I remember having to have a conversation, and everyone in the room, regardless of how much information I was giving them, was just really not feeling great. They were all looking really sad. So what was supposed to be a business pitch turned out to be like a stand-up comedy moment because I had to find things to break the silence because everyone looked so miserable. So even if you plan well, be open to changing things and moderating whatever you need to for it to work for you. Because that's what it's all about, to be honest. If you understand yourself, it'll be easier to understand other people. One of my favorite people too, Michelle Obama. Everybody knows who she is. Success isn't about how much money you make. It's about the difference you make in people's lives. I'd like to believe every single person in this room is making a difference to somebody somewhere, or lots of somebodies somewhere. Money is great. And you've heard this saying, you could buy yourself the most expensive bed with all the money in the world, and then you can't even find sleep. Give yourself the best house, give yourself the best of everything, and then never enjoy it for one day of your life. So really, is success, if it's just equated to money, the best thing that could happen? Or there has to be more, especially when you can see the excitement in somebody's face when you've just achieved something with them, made them believe that they could be somebody they never thought they could be. Be that critical difference in somebody's life who was just thinking about giving up, and you show up and you give them a lifeline. That satisfaction goes so far beyond the money, doesn't it? I think it does. And I see it all the time when you have conversations and you see that light bulb moment. That's the best part. You couldn't put a price on that. And I think that's the most important part as well. Knowing what drives you will take you further. So if you're an information highway kind of person, you're funny, you're creative, whatever that is, if you know what drives you, it'll take you further than your wildest dreams. I definitely believe that. Be relatable. Find things that resonate with your audience. So we're here today, we're talking about leveling up. There are a lot of things that we need to level up, don't we? Whether it's at a personal scale or even at a group scale or at a community or a country. There's a lot that we need to do. And I think each one of us has a big role that we're playing in making sure that we're all leveling up in however capacity we choose to do that. Whether we're discovering partners, whether we're discovering friends, whether we're discovering colleagues, wherever we're collaborating things, whatever it is we're doing. I think it's making it relatable so that people can understand what it is you're after and why it is you're doing it. And then it becomes something that is memorable for everyone. So be relatable. So after hearing all of that, and you sit and you contemplate, and if we had to go back to the beginning, really, an entrepreneur, do you get born one or do you actually get made? Some thoughts resonating. I'll leave that one with you, and I'm sure in time we'll find out if you'll be the entrepreneur inside that we know you are. Thank you.